This Sunday, the Seattle This Sunday, the Seattle Seahawks are playing the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. But according to the latest research, the biggest winner of the Super Bowl is going to be the unregulated gambling operators and the prediction markets. Ismail, tell me a little bit about the research that you guys have done on the Super Bowl.
Well, it's lovely to be here again. GCI, Gaming Compliance International, recently acquired my company Yieldset, and I'm now the president of GCI. We have, as GCI, extended our work across the United States. We've been looking at the online gaming marketplace, the total online gaming marketplace, which is split into two sectors: legal and licensed, legal and unlicensed and unregulated. So those are the two things that make up the total online marketplace for gambling in America today. We've been looking at all of these products over the last few years, since 2022, and we've been looking at sports betting, casino, poker, predictors, and crypto gambling in particular over the last 4 years. Looking at the Super Bowl, it's been a story of dominance by unregulated brands, who basically have been the one-stop gambling shop for American consumers for 3 decades now. So this year particularly marks the high point of internet penetration in the US beginning in 1996. And we're now getting to a point where these unregulated brands have been there haunting the American online gaming marketplace for 3 decades. On the Super Bowl, it's their biggest recruitment opportunity of the year. So this is the biggest, most bet upon single-day sports betting event. Okay, there's March Madness, which is bigger in volume terms because that's a 30-day tournament. But if you're looking at one event that defines how people express their fandom, how people bet on things, it is the Super Bowl. So this is the event that everybody looks to, legal, regulated brands and the unregulated brands, to acquire new audiences and reactivate old and existing audiences as well. The success in that is pretty much coming down to unregulated brands dominating. So if we take a look at the headline numbers we have here today, over the last few years, it's been a story of 2/3 to 3/4 of the marketplace being dominated. But let's split that down into the number of bets placed. So this year on the Super Bowl, we're estimating from all of our data and tracking over the last few years and where the audience is tracking this year. Regulated bets in volume will be 341 million bets placed with unregulated online operators. 63 million bets will be placed with regulated online operators. That's 504 million bets, just over $500 million total. The value of those bets in handle, so this is the amount of money actually spent on betting and gaming. 2026 estimated handle, as Americans call it, that's the value of bets placed. The value of Super Bowl bets placed will be $7.1 billion. That's what's going to be spent on this weekend's big dance or big games, Americans refer to it. Unregulated will take 78% of that money, $5.5 billion. Regulated brands will take a small 22% or $1.6 billion of that money. Let's put that in context and go back a few years here, because we've only had 8 years of legal online gaming in America. Let's go back to 2023. There was $4.5 billion total value bet on all Super Bowl bets by American consumers. Regulated was 76%, $3.4 billion. Regulated was 24% at $1.1 billion. It was the first time we broke the $1 billion wagering for legals. So 4 years later, we basically have ended up in a position where 5.5 billion is going to go to unregulated brands. It's increasing from, in 2023, 3.4 billion. And 1.6 billion is going to be wagered this year with legal brands, increasing from 1.1 back in 2023. So the story here is unregulated is dominating and increasing its market share, which goes against the grain of what everyone would expect. Everybody from government, lawmakers, media, regulators, operators, everybody would have expected that legalization should have begun to move the marketplace more in favor of the legal, licensed, regulated brands. What's actually happening is, for certain systemic reasons, which we'll talk about today, I'm sure, unregulated continue to dominate in the American spectrum. Part of that is because of legislation. America is a patchwork quilt of some states are legal just for sports betting. Some states are legal for sports betting and gaming, casino products. Some states are illegal for everything. They have nothing. So that legalization and legislation piece isn't there everywhere. 30 out of 50 states have sports betting today online. The other piece of this is obviously the unregulated have been there for 3 decades. They own all the gambling audiences. They've advertised to them. They've found them and sought them out on online advertising, through social media, through direct methods, through sponsorships. So they've got that audience there, and they can constantly come back with events like the Super Bowl, these marquee sports events, to reactivate that existing audience. And that's what they do very aggressively and very successfully. Another reason that they're so successful at this is because they own one marketing kind of mechanic that most regulated brands do not have. We have 7 US states today that have legal, regulated online sports betting and online casinos. There is an opportunity with that dynamic to have what you call cross-sell. So I can acquire customers from sports as an operator, and I can cross-sell them into casino, poker, and other products. When I lose money on sportsbook, I get free spins in the casino. When I lose money in the casino, I get free bets in the sportsbook. So that's been a model globally for online gaming. It doesn't work in America because of this patchwork quilt of legality. So what we're looking at here is consumers are used to the one-stop gambling shop offered by unregulated gambling the whole world over. So I can be acquired on sportsbook, I can lose money there, I can get free spins in the casino on slot machines, and I stay for longer, and I redeposit, and I spend more money, and my lifetime value, LTV as the industry refers to it, is much higher then. But that's how the gaming business makes its money. You need to have an ability to cross-sell. That ability not being present in America is substantially diminishing the abilities of legal brands to simply make the money they expected to, and then consequently produce the taxation revenue that they should be producing for state governments.
Thank you very much for that. I want to dig into some of the numbers that you mentioned. Your research indicates that $5.5 billion are going to be wagered on the Super Bowl with unregulated gambling operators. Why did the legal sports betting industry lose 78% of the Super Bowl market?
So the reason for this is basically the type of offers that are available and that patchwork quilt of legality. So I cannot bet on anything legally in Texas, in Utah, in California. I don't have any options. I could use a prediction market platform, but that's not specified as gambling or betting. The way that prediction market platforms are positioning themselves, they are financial futures contracts available on many things. The weather, when will the Ukraine war end, what will happen in the Super Bowl. So they're saying that they're not gambling, and currently in most US states they're regulated by the CFTC, which is a financial futures organization. So that's the regulator for financial products. So across America, you've got this patchwork quilt of legality. You have unregulated gambling that's seduced America, and it has literally owned its soul since 1996. So if you want to gamble online, you are gambling traditionally with illegals. When legal gambling was grafted on to that marketplace, the one American marketplace in each state, when legal gambling arrived through legislation, we've made it legal. Through regulation, we're now putting rules in place for how you can operate, how you can advertise, how you can take deposits. Unregulated gambling was not the thing that anybody kicked out, and that's no fault of regulators, it's no fault of government, it's no fault of law enforcement, and no fault of consumers. It was always there. So those guys got in early and they stayed there. And when the laws changed, they didn't move. And no one really expected that globally. You can see the same story in 195 countries, 268 online gambling marketplaces around the world. No one expected that to be the case. People thought if we passed laws and we had regulation, unregulated gambling would simply be pushed to the margin. There would be competition in the regulated spectrum, legal sites, and that would push all these unregulated, illegal sites to the margins. But it did not happen. It has not happened, and it is not happening today, unless you follow a particular path across your policy, process, and practice, and that comes down to 4 letters: M, P, E, and O, for monitor, police, enforce, and optimize. That's how any regulator, government, treasury team needs to look at their marketplace and say, I need all the information, all the intelligence from that marketplace to be able to make the right choices, the right actions, and dominate and control my marketplace. But you can look at any online marketplace in the world today and say most of them are in a state of chaos. It is a normal situation to be in a plus 65 or 70% control by unregulated gambling across the world. Very, very few markets are in a different position where they're in a controlled status.
So yeah, I wanted to ask that. I mean, of the 504 million bets that are going to be placed on the Super Bowl this weekend, 68% of them are going to be illegal bets. Is unregulated gambling the new normal for Americans then?
I'd say unregulated gambling has been the normal. It's absolutely not new. This has been a 3 decades old problem. So unregulated gambling is normal for Americans. And you cannot look at this and say the consumers are to blame. It is impossible for any consumer to distinguish between what is regulated and unregulated, aside from the very few brands that are known nationally, such as Caesars, MGM, DraftKings, and FanDuel. Yes, everybody knows them. Do they know their legal status? Perhaps. But there are other brands that have been in the market for 25 years longer than them. And those are also very familiar to certain American consumers. So you've grown up with these brands. You have seen them on all of the illegal streaming of UFC and NFL that you've been doing. Because for the average American NFL fan, it costs them $2,000 a year to stream from preseason to the Super Bowl. And they need 8 separate streaming accounts. For many Americans, particularly at the moment when it's not been a great 2026 for many of us in the world, so it's been harder to afford things. When you are looking at a cost of living crisis on top of dollar devaluing and everything else, and tariffs making your food and drinks that you buy more expensive, it's an easy decision to say, well, I'll just illegally stream. I'll look it up on Google, I'll look it up on ChatGPT, and I'll find somewhere to watch these things for free. But nothing in the world is for free. What happens with illegal streaming is it is fueled by illegal gambling. 86% of the advertising on illegal streaming of sports events in America today is brought to you courtesy of illegal gambling. Why? Because they are the fundamental engine behind illegal streaming. It would not exist the prevalence and extent it does today anywhere in the world, but especially in America, if it was not for illegal gambling. And it's
So
through
if
methods
you if
like
you
that.
it,
Go on.
so if you watch the Super Bowl this weekend on an illegal, unofficial stream, then basically what you're doing is working for and supporting the marketing funnel of the unregulated gambling operators.
I wouldn't say you're working for it, you are hostage to it. So I think the perception of most consumers is they think they're getting something for nothing. They think they screwed the NFL. They think they screwed the TV networks. They think they maybe screwed the teams too. And maybe if they don't support those teams, but they still want to watch the big game, maybe they don't feel so bad about it. They should. Behind illegal streaming is malware, spyware, keystroke logging, and scams. So if you have not become a victim of crime, you will once you engage with illegal streaming. You just don't know it yet. So the next time you become a victim of online crime, the question you should really ask yourself first is this: when did I last illegally stream? Because that's where you became infected. You also were offered so much illegal gambling there, because they're on 86% of the illegal streams of sports events in the United States. They are the engine behind it. So those two unregulated illicit industries are together why? They have this dark nexus combining them. They learned lessons from each other during the pandemic when there was no sport. So when we cancelled all the professional sports during COVID-19, illegal gambling went to illegal streaming and said, we need something to show our audiences. We need events that we can make ourselves. And what came out of that dark nexus was basically amateur sports events that were produced by illegal streaming for illegal gambling. Events like children's basketball from Ukraine, events like snail racing from Vietnam. And I'm not joking when I say that. There literally is snail racing. Go on YouTube and look it up. So you'll find there were feeds being run by gambling sites just to entertain consumers on social media, create clicks that then brought them to illegal gambling sites, And on those unregulated sites, they found casino product, which is what every unregulated operator wants to sell you into, because casino products produce a way higher margin than any sports, regulated or unregulated, does. So sports betting is a low margin product, but it's the most popular product in the world. So yes, many people, most people are acquired through that route, but then they're cross-sold into casino. As a business model, all gambling needs that business model present. In America, you mainly have legal, regulated sports betting only, if you have anything. States like California, Texas, Utah have nothing right now, for example. And unregulated wherever you are in America, however old you are in America, whatever your status is as a gambler, whether you're an addict, whether you're a casual customer, whether you're a woman, man, unregulated gambling will take your money and it will welcome you as a customer, and it will push you through many, many, many products. And when your product life cycle is ended and you are no longer a customer of the gambling services, they will sell your data to other people and offer you financial loans and other products, because there is never a tail end on the dissemination and use of a customer.
I want to talk a little bit about advertising. The ads at the Super Bowl are super famous. It's something that many American consumers talk about. The ads themselves often make the news for how creative they are. Companies compete with each other to come up with better, funnier, more creative ads during the Super Bowl. Yet your report argues that 32% of all Super Bowl advertising exposure is going towards unregulated crypto gambling. How is it possible that these illegal offshore sites are out marketing some of the biggest, most competent companies in America?
Very good question, Bas. The reason for this is really simple. It comes down to having armies of people online who do your advertising for you. So rather than paying a TV network and an advertising agency, and Kendall Jenner is advertising a gambling company, a legal regulated gambling company this year, and that's been one of the most broken out, talked about products this year as well, that Kendall Jenner fronting that ad campaign for that particular online gambling brand, a legal regulated brand to be clear. That advertising has led to more people looking at that brand. It's led to them being a leading contender in the app stores for downloads, and it's also led to more women looking at the gambling product as well. None of those things are fascinating or surprising to me. It's normal. A good ad campaign will always get results, legal or illegal. For the unregulated sector, they pay a lot less money to reach that audience. So how much is an advertising campaign that costs Kendall Jenner, a high quality ad agency, high quality production values, and the media buy you need behind it to create the awareness in the marketplace? How many people need to see that ad? So you need to buy an NFL, a Super Bowl spot on Super Bowl Sunday. That's going to cost you millions of dollars to buy, especially for the national audience you want to reach or the state specific audience you want to reach, because again, do you want to be advertising your gambling product to everybody in America? Well, not everybody can use it. You need to pick on those 30 states if you have licensing in those 30 states. So it's a very expensive deal to be doing any kind of Super Bowl advertising. Why are unregulated brands reaching a greater audience and more of a converting consumption audience? Because they're all over social media, news feeds, AI, and online media. That's where the customers are. That's where the rubber meets the road in revenue terms. So if I'm an unregulated crypto brand in particular, and these are the ones who have mastered this technique, I will put my logo on anything. And I will put my logo on kids' basketball content. I will put my logo on recipes. I'll put my logo on skincare routines on TikTok and Instagram. And it will be everywhere, and every time that thing is clicked, it forces me to go to their website. So they get insane amounts of traffic, and from that, the 0.1, 0.2, 0.3% conversion rate works. And that's the thing. Many people will see the Kendall Jenner ad on Super Bowl Sunday. How many of them will become gamblers with that particular brand that's advertising? Okay? Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions perhaps. But how many are becoming customers through the constant noise of unregulated online gambling, advertising on absolutely all types of online content through influencers who are paid a few cents for every click-through, a few dollars for every customer that converts? That stuff is there all day, all night, 24/7, 365, and it converts tens of millions a year.
I want to talk a little bit about prediction markets. prediction markets seem to be one of the big winners of the Super Bowl this year. And your report states that there's going to be around $3.1 billion in prediction markets trading volume for the Super Bowl. Is information trading, are prediction markets basically just a cover for unregulated sports betting?
So I would split this into what we'd say was unregulated and what was innovator gambling. So unregulated, do not want a license, had many opportunities, never took them, and they want to stay offshore and just service their product to an American audience. With the massive databases they've built over many years, a product and marketing expertise they've built over decades, and an audience they understand really well in America. Innovator gambling, I would say, is anything like predictors. It's also some of the crypto brands. It's also social and sweepstakes casinos. They have seen exactly the same thing that unregulated gambling saw. There are a huge number of gamblers in America, an audience that is obsessed with gambling products. They have an absolute love affair in America with demanding and desiring betting and gaming products on the internet. Okay? If you do not give them those products because of law, because of regulation, because of federal statutes, because we haven't caught up in regulatory and legal terms with what new products are. So what do we do about crypto gaming exactly? What do we do about prediction platforms exactly? So these things have been existing. Prediction platforms metastasized and morphed from fintech apps in the 2010s, okay? And then they were just looking at things like Bitcoin, the stock price movements. They then went, when it started becoming audience-generated content, into, why don't we just bet on anything? Why don't we let the audience decide what they want to bet on? Let them be the bookie, effectively. And you had market makers coming in, supermarket makers who were setting up trades and bets on there, okay? And in the early days, the language was very kind of malleable, that this was people talking about betting, and it was a futures contract, and you could trade out of your position. So there were some features of some of the stuff that was going on in Europe with online betting, and it then changed and became a much more Wall Street financial type product. But a certain audience really fell in love with it, particularly the young under 35-year-old audience. If you look at like something like the collapse of FTX, for example, at its collapse, 15% of its value was tied up in predictor products, okay? So they'd moved the audience from doing everything from where will Bitcoin go in the next month to where will it go in the next 60 seconds. So everybody was on this stuff, and they realized the return path on the notifications and feeds. If you'd taken a position on where the price of Bitcoin was going to move, and you were on that kind of, I want to be updated all the time, you opened up yourself to update me every 60 seconds. The return path from that product, from the audience, was huge compared to anything in gaming. So I could take a bet on who's going to win the Super Bowl on Sunday, but I could take a predictor bet, every 15 minutes. So I could keep coming back for something new all the time, keep coming back to trade my position. And let's just focus on how these platforms make their money. Fees and charges. They are not the bookie, okay? So when you start looking at how much volume will be produced in trading volume from the money on predictor platforms, $3.1 billion for Super Bowl Sunday and the Super Bowl events surrounding it, okay? So it's not just the Super Bowl itself, it's everything around it, because you can set up and offer anything on these platforms. And there are regulated platforms and unregulated platforms within that $3.1 billion in terms of trading volume. It's not equivalent, to be clear here, not equivalent whatsoever to the handle that's wagered on sports betting. It's a different thing. The leftover, in terms of fees and charges to the prediction market platform, is a tiny, tiny slice of that $3.1 billion. So what we're seeing here is, yes, audiences are interested in this, particularly the young. Yes, audiences have a massive return path to this product, and a highly frequent one, and they're betting larger amounts generally than you'd see on some of the sports betting sites as an average bet size. So there is an assumption here that you're not gambling, because that's how all of this has been sold to you. You are trading. You are taking part in a financial futures contract. And this is the subject of a whole bunch of lawsuits in America right now. State government lawsuits against these platforms. Lawsuits between competitors in the space as well. But what you're seeing here is we are redefining very quickly, and through advertising, through new platforms, through a whole bunch of lack of laws, what the status of these things are. To the most of the legal regulated betting industry, these things look, smell like betting. Okay, they look and smell like sports betting when they are present on sporting events. But you can do predictions on lots of things. What will the weather be tomorrow? When will the Ukraine war end? So there's lots of opportunities and possibilities here. But the main thing is it's being sold to American consumers as this is legal sports betting, trading, as they call it, in 50 states in America. Most of the advertising they're doing now happens to be in states that have no legal sports betting possibility. California, for example. So we're yet to see how this is playing out. We've seen the prediction marketplace move from 0.2% of all legal sports betting profitability is what's present in terms of 0.2% of that is what prediction market platforms legally are making in America. On the unregulated side of the fence with prediction market platforms, 0.7% of what unregulated online sportsbooks are making in America is being made by prediction platforms. So there is a piece here where you have to be very careful about, you've seen the creep that's present within the unregulated sector. Right now, this is a lot of hype around the prediction market area on the legal side of the fence, but on the unregulated side of the fence, you can see it's getting close on 10% of what the value of unregulated sports betting is. It's growing very rapidly in the regulated sector as well. So this is definitely a competitive product. It's definitely taking audience interest away from traditional online betting and gaming in America. And that's a dangerous thing. Why is it dangerous? Because we have regulated gambling in our societies. Why do we legalize and regulate this stuff to begin with? Consumers demand and desire it. If you don't control regulated gaming, if you don't control it, you fail to get any of the benefit that gaming can provide. And gaming can provide that for local commerce, in-state jobs.
Yeah.
It can provide it for local community, the payment of tax on profitability from gaming. And it can also look after your local consumers because children will be excluded. Customers who have problem gaming habits can be identified and excluded as well. And you have a fair and safe marketplace with integrity. These questions aren't being asked clearly enough around prediction market platforms. Who are the people who are offering the bets?
I want to talk a little bit about the growth of these prediction market platforms and perhaps put some numbers behind it. Prediction markets like Kalshi and like Robinhood, you guys estimated that in 2025 they generated $2.2 billion in volume on the Super Bowl. This year, it looks like they will generate $3.1 billion in volume, an almost 40% increase. What's the secret behind the success of these prediction market platforms?
So I think that you have to remember here, that's not just the legal and regulated ones by the CFTC. They're regulated by the CFTC in America. So that's a few brands: Kalshi, Polymarket, Crypto, and Robinhood. Outside of that, you've also got unregulated platforms, and you also have unregulated gambling using prediction market products as a lure to drag in a certain type of consumer. The prediction market term has become so important to unregulated gambling, they even use it in their search engine results pages on Google. So when you look up best betting site in America on Google, you will find in that list some legal sites and lots of illegal unregulated ones as well. The unregulated sites use that description, the home of the best sports betting and predictors, even when they don't have predictors. That's how much that's seen as catnip to an under 30-year-old audience with high disposable income. So they use it at that level of marketing, that granular level, that they know they can drag an audience in with it. So it's become really vital to everybody. So when you're looking at the growth of these platforms, there is a tremendous amount of hype, and a lot of these platforms are defining themselves as the antithesis, the opposite of traditional sports betting. So we had the CEO of Polymarket recently saying that people were being screwed by online sportsbooks in America. He didn't explain why or define that particularly clearly, but it was just taking a position of, well, we're not those guys, we're somehow different. But what they've identified is the exact same thing that the unregulated sector identified. This community, American consumers, have money to spend, they are demanding and desiring online gaming and betting products, and we will provide them for them. Unregulated gambling has done it in an illegal fashion for decades. Innovator gambling, predictors, socials, and sweepstakes casinos are trying to bring it in via the back door. Okay, so you can call it whatever you want. Okay, I'm not going to take a position on that. I'm saying that, again, this is a job for governments and regulators. They define what laws they want in a marketplace, which products are legal, which products are not. And it is like Burger King like that. Have it your way. Where my company, GCI, comes into this is to basically help support them as the silent machine, showing them the marketplace, showing them what's going on in that marketplace, who's present, where the sites are, where the audience is. Audience and activity to get to control of your marketplace, because otherwise you don't get to that benefit across commerce, community and consumers.
One of the interesting things that I saw in the news, Bloomberg reported that, given the current prices of Bitcoin and of crypto, they're not super appealing to crypto traders. Bloomberg recently reported that Crypto.com is going to spin out OG, their prediction market platform, which is a CFTC regulated prediction market app, and it's timed perfectly well for the Super Bowl. OG has around 300 markets just for the Super Bowl game. You can bet on who's going to be the winner, who's going to win the coin toss, what's the Gatorade color for the winning coach, the MVP, parlays, and props like scoring and defense. Not just that, but OG also introduces margin trading on prediction markets for the very first time, blending social features with trading, luring in users with up to $500 in rewards for the first million signups. Crypto.com has seen a 40x growth in their events contract business in the last 6 months. This is a huge threat to traditional sportsbook operators. Are they panicking about this right now?
So there's definitely been panic in the marketplace. This was something that everybody was crying out about for the last probably year, I'd say, particularly in America, and it's now spread globally as well. It's got to a point in the last few weeks where people have kind of settled on the basis of the threat of what the advertising was looking like when Polymarket first came into the US middle of last year. They'd set up prior to the Super Bowl the NFL preseason, saying that we're bringing you all 50 states are going to basically have sports betting, so it's sports events contracts. And some examples of their advertising had been leaked online and stuff, and it was saying the word betting in the ads, which didn't go down too well, and those ads got thrown away eventually. But it was just out there as these guys are basically coming in with, we're gambling, but we're not going to say that we are. We're just telling you that we're available everywhere. So there's a piece here which there was mass panic about this. There is clearly a fundamental existential threat that prediction market platforms present. But what the unregulated sector noticed here, prediction market platforms bring in a certain audience, and if you control them the right way, you can cross-sell them into other things. Cross-sell being king across everything here. Prediction market platforms have come in saying, we are not betting, we are financial futures. But bear in mind here again, what FTX and everybody else realized when they started offering these apps, you can sell somebody fiat currency to Bitcoin once a month, once every 3 months on average is what I think the statistics were back in 2015, 2016. You can sell somebody a predictor every 15 minutes. That's the point. I know it's much less money you make on these things because you're looking at fees and charges compared to what you make as a sportsbook, okay? So there's a lot less take coming in, but you own that audience because it's a real catnip return product. Everybody keeps coming back really frequently, and everybody keeps coming back regularly because it becomes so embedded in your feeds and your notifications that you can't leave it alone. And younger audiences have particularly found that. Now, when predictor market platforms first originated, they became rooms of crazy, is what the team at YieldSec before GCI called them. So all of the analysts used to call them, they're really crazy to watch, because when the machines did the monitoring, we'd find bets like, will Biggie and Tupac be resurrected at Christmas along with Jesus? And here's the bet being offered. Will Barbra Streisand die next week? Will Nick Nolte die next week? So all these crazy celebrity Deadpool bets were on there. And then there was a ton of sports betting going on there. And then it was the weather. And then it was the Ukraine. And then it was the conflict in Iran. So everything was being thrown in there. So anything in the world could have a position taken on it. And the more money that you could put on those things, the more you felt like you were shaping the future. So there's a weird dynamic there with younger audiences where they really believe what's going on there. And there was an Eric Trump quote from the 2024 election where he was basically saying, we didn't look at the fake news media to find out that his father, Donald Trump, had won the election. We looked at Kalshi and Polymarket. And I think that really set the seal in public relations terms of now everybody started looking at these platforms as they're arbiters of the truth almost, and you can also trade and make money on them. So they have a certain cachet at the moment.
That's one of the things that really surprised me about prediction markets because I know for a fact that they're probably not making money on a lot of these markets. And
Absolutely.
yet, what I massively misunderestimated, what I massively underestimated was that companies like Polymarket become effectively a media product, right? They lure people in as a media product, as a source of unbiased data, and that's such a powerful marketing trick to get media exposure and basically free airtime.
Exactly. Look, I've never known any product in online gaming. I've been in this business 26 years, okay? I've never known a product that's had two South Park episodes devoted to it in the last 2 years. So I've never seen that happen before. So where South Park is commenting on it, and that's usually got its finger on the on the pulse of society fairly closely, and it's written in line with what the news cycle is, that product and that brand in particular are ones that are constantly being mentioned. So when everybody is saying, let's take a Polymarket position on this stuff, it's become a watchword for kind of like, well, it's almost replacing people saying to each other, come on, let's bet on it. It's polymarking it now. So that's where the marketplace has moved with younger people. That's the term they're using. So I've never seen
Absolutely.
that quick a kind of a catch fire moment with something that captured imagination. In terms of, there's one question I'm going to help you ask here. Are these platforms making money? Right now, no, because they're throwing a ton of cash at development, a ton of cash at marketing, and they're trying to take over a whole space and also the legal fights they're having all over the world to try and confuse and identify with everybody. We are not gambling. But everybody who looks at it says, well, it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, so it must be a duck. So that's
Yeah.
the problem they're going to have here. So will it become a carved out product? In America right now, legally, these are seen as financial futures contracts, okay? That's it. Whether they'll be allowed to continue doing that on sports, each new Super Bowl, each new March Madness is another test to see if this will survive. And the main thing here is, again, regulators need a lot of help just to be able to separate the noise here. And every regulator and every legislator, it's in their entitlement, their prerogative, to have it their way. It is a Burger King world in that way. So however you want to run your marketplace, you should be able to, but you have to come down to those fundamentals of monitor, police, enforce, and optimize.
So I want to talk about a few of the topics we've discussed so far. We've talked about crypto casinos. We've talked about this perfect storm of crypto, prediction markets, unregulated gambling. Is it going to sink the regulated US gambling market for good? Are they going to outcompete it?
So, first of all, here, regulators know how to fight, and regulators have seen all of this from land based going into their experiences with online gaming now, okay? So, they've seen that there are always challenges in the marketplace. There is always change in the marketplace, too. How do we deal with new products when we move from table games to slot machines to electronic games to link machines and progressive jackpots? So, all of that experience across American regulators is coming to bear across this online area. They always need help. Everybody needs support in this area. My company exists to provide that support, for example. Where the regulated sector is really under challenge here is this, okay? You've got unregulated operators who've been there for 3 decades. Legal, regulated operators are in their 8th year. But in the last 3 years, we've gone from 103 operators, legal, licensed online gaming brands in America, who pay license fees, who are regulated, who are compliant, who do pay taxes, who do provide jobs in state in America, okay? 103 went to 95 in 2024, and last year that number dropped by nearly half to 57. So there are 57 legal licensed online gaming brands left in America. They're not quite at the level of becoming an endangered species yet, but you're getting there quickly, okay? And none of that consolidation, none of that collapsing numbers has come from M&A and the usual things you expect to see in the online gaming industry, a highly traded, acquisitive marketplace. Usually it comes from one brand buying another to go, well, they've got customers who are younger, we're going to buy that brand. They've got a female audience, we're going to buy that brand. They've got Mississippi, we're going to buy that brand. That's usually where it comes from. In the last year in America, it has come from one thing alone. It's come from attrition, where these brands simply do not make money, so they are going out of business. So we have almost a roll call of these kind of departed brands, and the silent death of regulated operators is going on right now in America, is going on globally as well. You are seeing fewer and fewer regulated brands surviving in the marketplace. The biggest reason for that is unregulated gambling. They have been there taking not just a a kind of bite out of the apple, they've been taking most of the apple and just leaving part of the core there. So the regulated sector is not making money. We've had one brand produce 1 quarter of positive EBITDA in 8 years. Okay, 1 quarter in 8 years from one brand. Everybody else is hemorrhaging money across the sector. So you are clearly seeing that the money is being taken away from outsiders here. Then you bring into that outside of the unregulated piece. So regulated gambling, legal and licensed. Unregulated gambling, illegal and unlicensed. Those guys basically are now been joined by a bunch of innovators who are legal in the positions that they've taken in certain states for social sweepstakes products and pretty much across America right now for predictors, because it kind of caught everybody slightly blind here. We don't know what to do about this yet. They're saying that they're financial futures contracts. They are regulated by the CFTC. And of the few companies who are there at the moment, they are making an incredible amount of noise, an incredible amount of publicity, and their growth rates through the roof as well, especially when you compare it to the flat line that you're seeing across regulated, legal, traditional sports betting and casinos in America. So right now, there is a real perfect storm going on of a bunch of new products, some of which are in a weird legal status, some of which are in a separate legal status, and then you've got just traditional unregulated gambling just stealing from you all the time. So right now there is this perfect storm continuing, and an event like the Super Bowl is when you hit that crescendo again.
One company, one predictor in particular, Kalshi, has seen 5 times the volume growth in Super Bowl betting from one year to the other. You mentioned that these prediction market platforms like Kalshi have lawsuits all over the place. Is it going to eventually end in some sort of regulatory action?
I think, well, in America, you've got a position.
I accidentally pressed the wrong button. Let me rephrase the question and then let's continue. And this is probably going to be the last question so that we make sure it gets uploaded in time.
Absolutely.
Kalshi in particular has grown 5 times its volume of betting in the last year. From 2025 to 2026, they've increased their volume 5 times. Do you think that these predictor markets who are under all sorts of legal threats, are they going to eventually end up in some sort of regulatory action?
So let's break that down a little bit. For the prediction market platforms, their business model from the beginning was, we will use our legal teams to fight a way to not be gambling. Because the whole point that they saw was they were looking at a regulated gambling industry that was already being reduced and being pressured into how does it make money. So we've had 8 years of legal regulated sports betting in 30 states now, and very little of it makes any money. Okay, so predictor market platforms knew that from the get-go. You do not want to be those guys. If there is another business model there and we can convince people that we are different, distinct, other from gambling, and we're not classed as gambling, we're not paying gambling taxes, we are not the house, we're not the bookie here, and the audience is doing all the work for us, well, this is great, isn't it? Because then we're just making fees and charges, and as long as we've got high turnover product, which they have, we can make money here potentially. It's yet to be seen whether they're going to make money. The growth is absolutely spectacular. I'm not sure if the customers are necessarily seeing an advantage from predictor market platforms away from sportsbooks. There is a marginal effect right now in terms of the amount of money that's being lost on sports events like the Super Bowl on the whole year of online sports betting. It's marginal now. It's less than 1% of kind of the value of legal sports betting is being taken away by predictors coming in, if you could look at it that way. But the audience attention is the other thing. And there's one phrase I've heard consistently in the online gaming business. We're not in the gaming business. You're in the competition for eyeballs business, because people watching Netflix is a distraction. People doing other stuff on TikTok is a distraction. So you need to get that product in front of somebody because it's a demand on their time. Now, if somebody's using a prediction market platform and it's dragging them back every 15 minutes after they've taken a trade position, which is the average we've seen in America, once you've taken a trade position, you come back every 15 minutes to adjust that trade, okay? And that's how they make money. Fees and charges on trade position changes, on a new position being taken. So if this is becoming a new way of expressing your interest in a sports event, it is obviously going to be of harm to the regulated sports betting industry. It's already proving to be a harm to the unregulated, illegal sports betting industry. But they've obviously absorbed it immediately because they can, because they don't have any regulation or oversight on them. So they've absorbed prediction market platforms in some format, even if it's just at the level of their advertising, to exploit it. And that's the one thing to point out here. Just as much as we can talk about regulated by the CFTC, regulated prediction market platforms being a threat to the regulated sports betting sector, the biggest threat is what hangs over all of us all of the time. Unregulated gambling, period, will also come, has already started coming, for the prediction market sector, because they don't see that kind of stuff and the kind of noise around it and think, there's something interesting there. They already knew there was something interesting there. They've been using the prediction market term for a decade now on illegal gambling platforms.